Hey, what's up everybody? Today we're going to talk about frontside heel flips. Before we get into the video, I want to say thank you to the patrons. Really appreciate all of you guys. If you guys are interested in the one-on-one lessons that I've talked about over video, if you're interested in discounts on skateboards from my brand Collage, if you're interested in the monthly Q&As, one of which I uploaded yesterday, and if you're interested in things like sending me videos and having me give you detailed just breakdowns of what I think you could do to improve on specific tricks, join the Patreon group. Another thing that I'd like to talk about is my music channel, Dreadward Bernays. It'll be linked in the description. I've been uploading quite a bit of music up there since I've had a sprained ankle. Update on the sprained ankle. I skated a little bit yesterday with a brace. I could do a few flat ground tricks, but yeah, that's pretty good for 13 days. I've been aggressively rehabbing, so I should be back soon. But if you're interested in checking out the music that I make, you've heard it in some of these videos. I tend to use my music in these videos, even though I've been getting these weird flags for using my own music that I have to dispute for the music that's already released. But yeah, check out Dreadward Bernays, my music channel. Let's get into the trick. So frontside heels are an interesting one. Full disclosure for me, these days they're much easier switch and they have been for a long time, but I did learn them in my normal stance. And so we're gonna talk about them today, and everything that I'm gonna go over would work in your normal stance and it would work switch. But there's a thing with switch frontside 180 tricks where they just seem to work better than the regular ones. Switch frontside flips, switch front heels, they work a lot better for me and for most people that I know and have skated with than switch backside flips and switch backside heels, even though I've been able to make the switch backside flip work pretty fluidly by using aggressive shoulder rotation. But yes, other tricks that work better switch are frontside big spins. Something about your front leg, it's kind of stronger than the back leg because you know it's a little counterintuitive. You'd think that the front leg was stronger because you push with it, but pushing is actually less work than keeping the board stable while the other foot pushes. And that's my theory for why the front foot is stronger, which makes certain nollie tricks and switch tricks a lot easier than their normal stance counterparts. So let's go over the basics for the frontside heel. You should definitely be able to frontside 180 and heel flip before you start trying these. If you can't do either of those, you're not ready for this one. Get back and learn them and then come back to this video. I have tutorials on both of those, so check the playlists, which are linked below, and you should be able to find my tutorials on them, and other people have tons of tutorials on those all over YouTube and everywhere else. I start with my back foot. I'm using only my toes and the ball of my foot, right? So we're right around here. I have my heel up off the board, right? This is the tail, this is my feet, and my foot is in the center of the tail. Now with my front foot, I'm gonna have it just at the front bolts or just below the front bolts, depending on how high I want to do the trick, right? So there's a difference. If I'm doing it downstairs or over something, I'm gonna like over a rail into a bank or something like that, I'm gonna have my front foot closer to the bolts because I'm more concerned with stability than I am with trying to pop high. Now, if I'm doing it over something, like if I'm trying to do it over a picnic table or a bench or something like that, then I'm gonna have my foot closer to the back foot because that's gonna allow me more space so I can fling my foot up the board. It's gonna get me more pop. In the beginning, I would recommend that you have your foot not all the way up to the bolts and not so close to the front foot that it becomes a problem, because you're not trying to pop really high and you're also not going off of anything, so you don't need that added stability. So a happy medium is good for beginners. And also beginners front heels are going to benefit from a much harder kick because you don't have the muscle memory built up to where the kick is very easy. So we have our feet in place and we're going to start by rotating our shoulders backside. Okay, now I'm going to break this down a little bit. I don't necessarily have to rotate my shoulders backside to start for regular front heels anymore. I've done these forever. I built up the strength so that I can kind of just drop my shoulder and generate enough power to whip myself around. Where I would need to rotate is for the 360 tricks. This is the same for me with backside. For a backside flip, I don't really rotate my shoulders frontside anymore because I don't have to. I just kind of drop my shoulder and I'm able to generate that power. In the beginning, I had to rotate. When I do a backside 360, I definitely still have to rotate to generate the power. When you're a beginner, you lack the muscle memory, so you're gonna have to rotate the opposite direction. For this, we're trying to turn frontside, so you're gonna rotate backside. Once you've rotated backside as much as you need to, you're then gonna start to crouch, and as you're crouching, you're gonna rotate your shoulders. So it's gonna be a pretty quick motion. You're going to be crouching, be rotating. You're still gonna be looking at your board while you do this. This is very important. If you're not looking at your board, it's gonna be nearly impossible to do this trick because you have to know when to catch the board to make this one happen. So get accustomed to looking at your board while you do front 180s, while you do heel flips before you start trying these. Because if you're not, it's gonna be a jumbled mess and you're gonna be all over the place. So we've already rotated back. We're starting that fast frontside motion and bending our knees, and we want to time it so that our shoulders get back to square one, meaning parallel with your skateboard, and our thighs are parallel to the ground in our squat at the same time, right? So once we've reached that point, we are not going to stop. It's important that you don't rotate, come back, bend your knees, and then stop there and then pop. And you're gonna do that in the beginning because you're not used to doing it. But our goal is for this whole thing to be one fluid motion. We rotate, we start to crouch and rotate back and pop, and we make the whole trick happen. Once our shoulders meet up with the board, once our thighs parallel with the ground, we are then going to pop. And like I said, our heels are pointed upward, only our toes and the ball of our foot are in the center of the tail. So once we're in that squatted position, we're going to press our back foot down and scoop it out, similar to what I talked about recently in my frontside big spin quick tips. And as we pop, as soon as our tail hits the ground, our heel flip motion starts, right? So with this one, we're going to heel flip like we normally would, and we're going to follow through to guide our board frontside. And the push from the back foot, when we press down and scoop out like we would for a frontside shove it or big spin. These two things are going to work together to guide the board frontside as it's heel flipping. As the board's flipping, we want to be pulling our knees up to our chest, and that's really important for this trick. If you do it stiff-legged, you're going to hit the ground before the board's done flipping. Trust me, it happened to me, and I had to figure this out through trial and error. Our goal is to catch the board with our knees sucked up to our chest, and when we rotated 90 degrees, right? So we start here, we pop, flip, we catch the board here with our knees sucked up. And then once we catch the board, we're gonna try to stay as still as possible as far as our leg movement while we complete the rotation and wait to be pushed to the ground. Now, I know that I'm saying to stay still, but we're human and it's impossible to stay still. But our goal is to try to stay still. And that's our goal with every single flip trick. Once you pop and catch, you wanna stay still and try to let it push you to the ground. It's the same when you're skating a handrail. When I jump on a crooked grind on a handrail, my goal is to jump onto the handrail, get into place, and stay as still as possible until it's time to dismount. Now, we're never completely still, but this is what we're going for. This is what you need to be thinking of in your head, and this is what you need to be trying to do in your mind. And staying still for us is going to mean activating certain muscles, right? So we want to keep those legs up. Gravity is going to be pushing them down, but we're going to be fighting against that, trying to stay still. And when we hit the ground, in the beginning, you're not going to be able to rotate a full 180 degrees. Trust me. You got to build up that muscle memory. You have to build up some strength. You have to get a little bit more pop, right? So what you're going to aim for is you're going to aim for your front wheels, which are going to become the back wheels once the trick is complete. So where your nose is, you're going to aim for those to land on the ground first and to pivot on those front wheels the rest of the way. There's nothing wrong with this pivot. You're going to have to do it. In the beginning, it's going to be a pretty crazy one. You're probably going to do like a frontside 90-degree heel flip, land on your nose, and then pivot the other 90 degrees. That's fine. You're a beginner for a reason, right? And then slowly you're going to start rotating more. So maybe 110, 120, 130, 140 degrees, and then pivoting the rest of the way. And eventually, if you do the trick enough, if you practice enough, if you execute with proper technique and develop muscle memory enough, so deliberate practice, deliberately working on the areas that you're weak. So if you're not able to rotate and keep the rotation fluid, and that's causing you to stop 90 degrees and have to pivot too much, work on keeping your shoulder rotation fluid. If you're not bending your knees low enough so you're generating enough snap when you pop, work on crouching. If your crouching and rotation don't sync up enough, work on that. But it's up to you to identify where you're lacking, target that, and get rid of it. But the more you do the trick, the easier it's going to be to rotate the full distance. And like I said in the quick version of this tutorial, doing this over gaps and downstairs is going to make it much easier to complete the rotation. I never completed a full rotation on a frontside heel flip until skating at Hollywood High, learning how to do it down the 5 and then eventually the 8 stair. And then magically, once I was able to complete the rotation down the stairs, I got more confident with the rotation on flat ground. So then when I was playing a game of skate against Pee-wee or Bill Allegar, two of my friends who could actually do frontside heels and would bring them out in games of skate, I started being able to rotate them the whole way instead of doing the pivot. But in the beginning, you should just be worried about your technique. And I will go more in depth into doing this downstairs, doing this over things and the like of that over on my Patreon channel, where I've adapted the strategy of, I do the short breakdowns for shorts. I do the more in-depth breakdowns here on YouTube, and over on Patreon, I'm going to be releasing a more in-depth, long-winded version of these over there. So if you're interested in that, at every level, you get access to those videos. That's pretty much all I have for front heels. That should be able to get you going. I had basically no help or coaching to learn this trick. It was one of those ones that when it was time for me to learn it, nobody that I was skating with could do it. So I had to just sit with it and figure it out on my own. And I was able to work it out, and these are exactly the tips that I discovered. The big thing is going to be that shoulder rotation and timing it with where you pop, and also looking at your board. Another thing is, so I would always think of my foot as kicking out in a circular motion like this, instead of just a regular heel flip. If I'm here, I pop and I kick like that. For the front heel, I would always think pop and kick like that. And that really helped. I said that in my varial heel flip quick tips video too. And if you watch any of my varial heels or any of the few front heels that I do, you will see that I do that. Now, switch is much easier with this trick. I've only ever done a front heel down the 5 and 8 stair at Hollywood High, and there's a very famous double set with a double kink rail down it in Burbank here. Dylan Reeder fakey flipped over it in his video part for Gravis. Somebody like blunt slid it into the bank. I front heeled over that thing 3 times in a row. It was an ad in, I believe, the Skateboard Mag for one of my sponsors. I never got the footage. I still haven't seen the footage other than when we looked at it that day. I definitely landed it. If you need verification, you can talk to Sean Peterson, skate photographer extraordinaire who shot the photo. But that's just how it happens. Like I've talked before about when I board slid that big green rail at Potrero Skate Park in San Francisco way back in 2012, I think it was, and I didn't get the footage until during the pandemic in 2020. It just happens sometimes with skateboarding. So that was an ad that ran, and I just never got the footage, so I wasn't able to use it. And I was hyped because I landed the first one. It wasn't right from a either a photo or a filming standpoint. I did the second one and I didn't land it the way that I liked, and then I did the third one. It was perfect. The photographer caught it and the videographer caught it, but unfortunately I just never got to see the footage after that day. I did that trick on a 8-inch board too, because that was WarCo skateboards when I rode for them, who I turned pro for in 2014. And in the beginning, 8 was the biggest size they made, and I'd already done all of my tricks on an 8.25 for years. Like I'd been filming tricks on an 825, but since I wanted to ride with the team and build the company, and we eventually built it up into a company that was in every major magazine, you know, like we were like doing really good things, selling thousands of boards. We had a solid team. We had to start somewhere, and I was willing to skate boards a quarter of an inch smaller than what I was used to just to play ball, and it helped me in a lot of ways. But yeah, like that's the only regular frontside heel that I did on anything substantial. All the other ones were switch, you know, like I remember doing switch front heel over the trash basket at the USC spot, first try, like 180'd up the gap and then switch front heeled over the trash can. Because when you get the shoulder rotation down, it's just like doing a switch heel flip with the shoulder rotation. And so it just works. But that's all I got. Check out my company, Collage Skateboards. You can get our decks from clubdist.com. That's www.clubdist.com. Check it out. I'll have a link in the description as well. Thank you for watching. I hope you land a frontside heel flip. I can't wait to do one again. Peace.